Learn to be super successful. Subscribe to my channel, meathead. This is just one man's opinion. Could be wrong. I don't think I'm wrong. But she has extraordinary leadership skills. And she's toned down. Not as toned down. Maybe that if we do another webinar, she'll be a little more toned down. But the first two webinars, I looked out at you. You look shell-shocked. Like battle fatigue. And it's not a management, what did she say, a management? Yeah, there's no such a thing as a management contract. She meant management contract, okay? The management contract, one of the when you're buying substance abuse or things that require state or country licensing, okay, the easiest one to describe is substance abuse, okay? All the crackheads, et cetera, they come in there and you try to fix them up. Well, the licenses are transferred normally corporation to corporation. So if you go in and try to buy assets, we haven't talked about buying assets versus stock yet, but ideally you want to buy assets so you don't have the past, current, and future liabilities. So she's had to buy the corporation in that case because it was the only way for her to get the licenses transferred in 30, 45 days. You try to apply for the license yourself, we'll have two worst case scenarios. One took 2.5 years. Just imagine, you got the business and you're not being able to collect any of the revenue, okay? The second worst case, as you're going to hear him, is an active duty naval officer. It took 11 months and for them to transfer the licenses, but they finally got transferred. So you can set up a management contract whereby part of that management contract is you run the business, you collect the revenues, you pay the bills, and you control the bank accounts. That's what she did. But I mean, this is business 101. But if you've never bought a thing that required governmental approval government approval through a license, then you're fucked. And guess what? The sellers don't tell you. Now, do they tell you because they're stupid, or do they tell you because they're from Tel Aviv? I don't know. Or they're an Egyptian flying on a magic carpet. I don't know. But they don't tell you. But the due diligence list you're going to get, and the due diligence list that you're going to get from your accountants and the lawyers, cover these questions. Will you bring me the quality of earnings? Will you pass out the quality of earnings? Now, this is the penultimate draft, the second to the last draft of a quality of earnings of a big accounting firm for which the meatheads on YouTube don't get. And so why do I now do paper? Because you morons send it to the people. So this is what the second to the last quality of earnings. And that's a fancy way of saying due diligence. She said when the accountants do the due diligence, no accounting firm has done due diligence and an audit. By GAAP, General Accepted Accounting Principles, you cannot have fees to an accountant contingent on anything when they're auditing. So by definition, they're not auditing. They're doing a quality of earnings, which is this. But what you ask the accountants when they're doing due diligence, and due diligence lasts depending on the size of the deal, between 2 and 4 or 5 days. But you make sure that the engagement partner, you tell them, I don't want to know when there's red fucking flags. I want to know when there's an amber or a shaded amber flag. Because you want to be able to go in and poke the seller in the fucking eye, slap him to the ground, and piss on his face and lower the price. Every time there's some sort of flag, you want to knock him down. Now this is when you get vicious. 800,000, you heard that. Did anybody not hear that? QLA is based on lowball, embarrassing offers. We'll call them Egyptian offers or Jewish offers. You want to insult the fucker. Some in the room will be able to insult them better because they're more adept at it because they've been doing it for 6,000 fucking years. Wandering the desert. You and Moses. So you'll get equality of earnings. But before this is because this is about a week before the final equality of earnings. If there's anything whatsoever that, and you can tell the engagement part, is there anything that I can knock the price down based on what? And they will tell you. They may not put it in writing, but they will tell you. And then you're on the seller like stink on shit. Remember I said when I get him on the ground, I keep kicking him in the head till his brains are oozing out. That's what you do. Or somebody on your team better be able to do it. Or you're going to wind up overpaying for everything. And the unfortunate thing about seller finance 100% is you don't, because it's seller finance and you're not having to borrow the money from the bank, you're willing to overpay. Well, to a certain extent, we are willing to pay more than we would, but we're not willing to overpay. If you overpay for assets or a business now in Corona, I mean, let me go out in the back and cut your throat like a pig and we'll have you for dinner tonight. Now is the time. It is a buyer's fucking market, not a seller's market. You want to beat him like a rented mule. You want to beat him like a stepchild. You want to beat him like you wish you beat your wife. I'll keep this one. Comments about the Viking bitch. By the way, when I said Viking bitch 2 closed her deal, just coincidentally, her best friend for 25 years, they grew up from high school, is also the same kind of nurse she is. Came to the seminar, one seminar behind her. And she's also taller than me. I mean, I don't know where they find these broads. Texas girl, farm girls, you know, picking bales of hay up. I don't know how, but they're both big girls. And so Katie closed her deal, but it took her a few months longer than it did the Viking bitch. So we call her Viking bitch 2. Viking bitch 2. But it's unheard of to have a board move. It just look at yourself. You're moving your family, your kids. Are you fucking kidding me? Before they did a deal? Questions about the Viking bitch? Yes, sir.
She bought a company for 50K, and she said it was cash flowing at 200K per year.
No, since she bought it. Since she bought it. She had it 2 or 3 months. And the deal that she said that had $1.3 million that was left on the table, yada, 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 all those deals closed. So she's got 5 or 6 deals now. She's got about, I think, $2.5–3 million in EBITDA. You put a value on it. You put a value on it. And no money. Her CFO put up, I don't know, 50 grand or 10 grand or whatever it was, 10 grand. I presume, I don't know. I haven't never met her CFO. I haven't never talked to him. But rather than fuck around with the bank. But then you heard her. She swept. She got the money. She got that money. The first time she swept the cash. I mean, she drains all the subsidiaries of all the cash once or twice a month. And you heard Dan Locke says you got to check the bank accounts every day. Well, he's got 800 million Chinese midget ninjas. And believe me, I check the money 4 times a day. I mean, guys, I'm not being racist. This is just the way it fucking is. The Chinese keep 3 sets of books. 3. Which set of books are you buying? Just stay away from Asians. Don't buy anything from them. It's a lot easier. I'm serious. Until you know what the fuck you're doing. Because they will fuck you for practice. This is the way it is. Is this how they teach at Wharton? No. Is this how they teach at Oxford? No. Is this how it fucking is? Yes. What else about Viking bitch? Yes, sir.
So each mistake and setback she made, she was able to tie it back to a specific mistake she made in not following the process.
Yes. All the setbacks they have since 1993 are when they don't follow instructions. There are no setbacks. The model is a fine-tuned machine. The only setback is between your ears. I wish, I would be disingenuous. I would be like all the other gurus that lie. The best truth is when it hurts. And most of my truths hurt, unfortunately. Not for me. I've known this since I'm not a little boy, because we come from the barrio and nobody had any fucking money. But since I'm out in business, but I've always wanted to know the real shit. And the big guys that would always told me. Now, would they always tell everybody else? I don't know. I can only speak from my experience. All the big icons that I've had the privilege, and it's a privilege to be around and being in business with. They shoot. They shoot. They're straight shooters. They're not there. They're way past trying to impress you. See, you still trying to impress people. Well, how's that program worked out for you? It hasn't. I started to say when I was asking you about your candy and shit like that, I've never bought a Christmas present, a birthday present, a Valentine's present, anything, ever. Not a candy bar for anybody in my life. Never. I've never given how you give well, I never did. I never understood why, when you buy cars, sympathy cards and shit like that, how so many people buy cars like that? How can a fucking business like that be in existence? Who the fuck buys those cards? Millions of people buy them. Not me. And you've done all the above. A couple of you haven't done this, and then you got some fucking chicken shit. And how's your program worked out? You saw how Steve acted, right? Jobs. Now, another movie's coming out about Steve. It's the real truth. Because that's kind of political. Well, if that's political, fuck. Just how rotten of a fucker was he? Pretty rotten. Was he up there with Mussolini and Hitler? Maybe not. But he's at that end of the continuum. And where are you? Getting back to the young man's question about you got to be pretty much an asshole. Remember you asked me before breakfast? And I didn't beat around the bush. But you got to have somebody that's tough. You have to have at least one street fighter You have to have at least one street fighter on your board. Preferably more. That wants to get in there and... The fact that she's gotten these guys to move is just incredible. It's beyond incredible. I can't even find words to describe it. But then there's you. See, it's like Lee Trevino, who in another lifetime I knew. He's been hit by lightning 5 times in his life. Lightning. You know what the odds of getting hit by lightning 5 times are? That it's not. It can't. And on a golf course with a golf club, it's a conductor of it. The first time he said, was the second time, the third time, and they tell him that it's impossible for you to get hit by it. 4th time, the 5th time. Now he does not go out of his house when it's raining. When it happens to you, it's a statistic. When it happens to me, it's 100%. So just because the Viking bitch can do it, 6'2", 225, a female who squats to pee, I could eat her alive. I'd pluck her fucking eyes out and leave her for dead. But that's me. That's not you. Doesn't mean you can do it. Now, if we can get a little shit like this, look at it. She wouldn't hurt a fly, you'd think, right? Well, I got animals that look just like her. Because even if you back a mouse into a corner, it fights. Maybe it doesn't fight well. All it takes is one lucky punch. She's a superstar in the making, just no question about it. Okay, anything else about, yes, sir.
She mentioned something that you also mentioned. You can't get full of yourself. Otherwise, people will not be willing to work with you.
Well, no, I don't agree 100% with that. From where most of you, I don't mean just you, but most that come to the seminar are starting, and you start in a hole. Okay? First, you got to get out of the hole to make this shit work. One of the things I learned through the mentor program not to do was to get down in the hole with you. Because I know if I get down in the hole with you, I can get you out easy. But you've got to have the confidence that you pulled yourself out of the hole yourself. But you don't want that. You want me to, I can just look at your faces. Oh, bring back the mentor program, Dan. I'm not ever. You got to do it yourself. And, but I mean, she's a ballsy broad. And she's done well. She's right about that deal that took her a year. I would have, she never told me about that deal. But now it's closed. So now she talks about it. And it's a great deal. Now, when you do know something about the industry like she does, you see extra, as they say in Texas, things that you can do to increase the revenue quickly. So that's the benefit of going into something you know. I don't like that because you sit back on your laurels. If you were so smart in that industry, how come you didn't make any money the first time around? That's how I look at it. So that's why I like people going into clean. But it's advisable. Most of the medical professionals should go in if they're going to use their knowledge to enhance the model. But this is a very hands-on model the first year or two. Hands-on. And whereas Andreas Milner is a financial analyst, and that didn't help him rolling up healthcare in Germany. But so he knew nothing, just as Gerard knew nothing about dogs. Now she knows something. Okay, all the other people that you've listened to, I believe, so far knew nothing about where they went. So now we're going to start to hear some people that knew something. And because some of the guys in the room here are leaning towards doing this in their area of endeavor. That's fine. But it's not magically going to turn to gold if you act the way you've acted heretofore. You got to pull the trigger. And she's doing fucking terrific. Post-corona, I'm going to go to Texas, which I mean, Texas has been good to me. I loved it. I made a lot of money there. And for a gal, though, that's special. But she doesn't sound, we haven't had, other than Margot. Margot's doing a terrific job. But the Viking bitch is different. And Margot went into something she didn't know anything about. Something else, anything else about Rebecca, the Viking bitch? Yes, sir. That's exactly where the crook that went to jail 8 times sat, that asked all the stupid questions, had a bald head just like you. Go ahead.
Is it Jewish?
Yeah, of course.
Also?
Yeah, I mean, what else? Why do you think I'm bringing it up? Because he was a Catholic? What's wrong with him? Can you say something in Hebrew to him like he's a moron? Mazel tov, let's go.
I wanted to ask, she did a relative small deals compared to the black we saw, right?
She did what? Small deals compared to the black guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the black guy, Anelli. Yes, we know you're black, Anelli. Okay. Okay. Yeah. There are some black people in the room, but I mean, the market is crazier in South Africa because nobody's doing this there. I got one white Polak who looks like a Nazi Afrikaan, and I got Anelli, who's obviously a black guy, and that's it. And what is there, 47 million people there? There's a much bigger the bigger the fuck up, the bigger the opportunity, and especially when nobody's there. I mean, and there is literally nobody doing it in South Africa. Now, I don't know about the guys on the YouTube. On YouTube, I don't know what they're doing. I don't know what they're doing. So there are people, I think, I couldn't swear to it, that are doing this in South Africa, but I don't know them, and I certainly have no input. All they do is they're using the information on YouTube, or not YouTube, YouTube and my website. But I mean, the deal, the other deal, the deal she was closing was 5.7 million or whatever it was, and there was a 4.7 million, there was a hidden 1.3 million, whatever she was saying. That deal closed, and she's already, I believe, doubled free cash flow. And now, when you know what you're doing in the industry, you can double, triple, quadruple cash flow pretty quickly. And if you have the balls to ask your board and just say, I'm stupid, how do I double cash flow in the next 45 days? To date, as far as I've been saying this for 20 plus years, not one of my students has ever gone to the board and said, I'm stupid. Help me. How do I double cash flow in 45 days? To date. If you do, you let me tape it so I can believe you. Because it's easy to say. It's hard to do. I'm stupid. Please help me double cash flow in the next 45 days. You're not going to do it. Because then why do they need you? That's what you think. It's a good question. Why do they need you? They don't. But these challenges, I call them problems, are speed bumps. Like the speed bumps that are on my driveway. These are not big problems. They're just not. This is bullshit. This is bullshit. Nobody's shooting at you. I mean, South Africa, they may be, but for the most part, they're not shooting at you. But the money's out there. Anything else about Rebecca? Yes, ma'am.
She said she also contacted some consultants.
Oh, good. Thank you. She figured out, and it's very prevalent in the lower end of assisted living, down through home health, where they hire people to go in. Okay, I'm doing $3 million a year now. What can I do to now? If they have the credentials, there's a lot of consultants out there that aren't worth a shit, and she's picked their brains and to find potential acquisition candidates. She also asks the employees of these institutions, because she is a nurse. She asks them, "Hey, you must know," and the nurses do. And so she's got referrals through that. But the business brokers, what she mentioned, the business brokers have a conflict. They get paid by the seller, or they're supposed to get paid by the seller. They're only supposed to get paid by the seller. But many of them get paid by other sources. Okay, they skew deals. I bring my business. I want $5 million for the business, the broker. I sign a contract for a year. I'm supposed to not be able to talk to anybody else. Blah 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 blah. And he sells it for $6.7 million. And he's only got to give me $5 million. That's the business broker model. And there's nothing, unless it's in the contract, there's nothing you can do about it. And then when you want to stipulate that you share pari passu, 100%, they won't sign it. They won't sign that contract. Now, some of you might think, if you're thinking ahead, you may not be thinking ahead, how do I get a broker to make sure a deal, and a broker can kill a deal in a heartbeat? How do you get the broker to promote my deal when it's 100% seller finance and he's not going to get paid a penny? Why would you, as a business broker, promote or sponsor your client selling this business to this guy for seller finance 100% when I'm not going to get paid? You wouldn't, would you? So then you volunteer to pay the broker's fee yourself. You will have a best friend for life. They will name their children after you. So you solve the problem of seller finance, not getting paid. How do you pay the professionals and the board? You don't. But when we explain on structuring other loans, we'll explain how you do that. But everybody, the accountants, the board, lawyers, and the board all understand not getting paid on a deal or two. It's you that is starving to death, not them. It's you that needs money to pay your rent. It's not them. But after 3 or 4 deals, they say, hey, Joe, when are we going to get paid? We'll explain how you pay them. But it's easy to deal with a business broker because you volunteer to pay their fees. But it's disclosed. It's not a Tel Aviv deal like this. It's not a thief-crook deal. It's all disclosed. That's how you stay out of trouble. That's how you stay out of trouble. And the broker will ask you, he says, do we have to tell the seller? I guarantee you. And you say yes. For some of you, it'll be harder to not lie. One of the things that's kept me out of jail for 50 years is I don't give a fuck. I tell the truth no matter what. No matter what. Probably because I got beat bloody, half to death by my father 2 or 3 times for lying. I'm sure that has something to do with it. To death. I'm an honest motherfucker. If a $50 bill, well, you don't have 50. If a $5 bill fell out of your pocket, I chase you 3 blocks down the street to make sure you got it. True story. When you just, he doesn't need the 50. Not me. But it's also, I'm truthful about deals. When I tell you, will you bring me the pound, or Cat, will you bring me the pound, please? When I tell you don't have a ghost chance in hell of doing the deal, pack up your bags and leave. Now, Asian baby. Satinder. That's a pound. I bet him £1 million to £1 that he could never do the deal. 1 million to 1. He tried and tried and tried and tried. And I said, you wouldn't send me the pound, you cheap, bald fuck. You wouldn't honor your obligation. He slithered off like a snake. He sent me the pound. He sent me the pound. Lets me be the most honest Asian I ever met. But it only cost him £1. If it was 100,000 pounds to $1 million, I would have never heard from him again. If it was 10 pounds to $1 million, I would have never heard from him again. EJ? When I tell you you have no chance, there's more chance there's going to be 29 days in May, like in February, 29 days, than you getting this deal done. Anything about, yes, sir, in the back.
She also told to act like a pro, but observe as much as possible.
I beg your pardon, could you repeat that?
To act like a pro in front of them, but absorb as much as possible of the...
No, when it's professionals, well, I don't know what that word meant, but she absorbs. But I mean, the reason why the lawyers and the accountants are charging us so little up front, because they see millions and millions and millions in fees coming. And why would you leave? I would, if the service dropped off. But why would you leave a lawyer that only charges $72,000 when you've run up $350,000, $400,000 in bills? Now, some of you would leave. Because that's a real asshole to me. With Steve Jobs and these guys, I don't consider that being an asshole. Fucking, I consider that. But they're lowballing, and they must be senior in their firm, because senior guys can write off shit, doesn't matter. But by the way, all accounting firms, all banks, And all law firms have business development budgets. Business development budgets. That's how they can waste time with you. You heard the Vietnamese gangbanger said that, oh, you'll even be prouder of this, Mr. Peña, and he pulls out the largest law firm, blah, 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 and he said that they're going to write the fees off 100% of the first deal, and they're going to make it up 10% additional for the second to whatever deal. They like the kid, they like the deal. Now, how you could love a Vietnamese gangbanger? All his tattoos weren't showing and shit, you know. And by the way, if you have earrings and shit like that, get rid of them. If you have tattoos, cover them up. Wear long sleeve shirts the rest of your fucking life. That dog doesn't hunt. Whoever told whoever that dog hunted was lying. We've had guys in here, you know, take that bald head and put a bunch of fucking tattoo marks on its head. I said, unless your hair grown out covers that shit up, you might as well forget about it. You're not going to do anything. Any place, anywhere, never. You understand what I'm saying? But the hair did cover it up. By the grace of Allah. But he might as well just... And yet they tell you free spirit now. You can be... The beginning of the end for political correctness was a book written in 1969 by a Jewish psychiatrist named Stein. It's I'm okay, you're okay. That was the beginning of the end. Because it said, whatever you want to do is okay with me, and whatever I do is okay with you. Fuck you. That's not the way life is. That was the beginning of the end of mankind, in my opinion. 1969, he wrote that book. I'm okay, you're okay. And on Wall Street in the 70s, we used to say, I'm okay, you're okay, cha-cha-cha. Because we knew it was a joke. A fucking joke. Nothing you could ever do is okay with me in this room. It's not that I hate blacks, I hate everybody. I don't like anybody. To me, all you are is problems. I have 3 files in life. Every one of you is right now in the pre-litigation file. And then we'll move to the litigation file and the post-litigation file. Because I'm prepared to sue everybody I ever meet. Everybody. Tim Harris, who's been my lawyer one of my lawyers since 1982, big-time lawyer. I had him sue an ex-priest once that stole $25,000 from me. An ex-priest. And after 5 or 6 years of litigation, I took his house, I took his mother's house, I bankrupted him, I just beat him to death. And Tim is sitting in the office of this guy in New Jersey, and he says, Dan, you'd cry. No, maybe you wouldn't cry. But I mean, I feel like crying seeing what we've done to this guy. What are you talking about, Tim? Let's let him go. Let's let him off the hook. We got to do trial. No. Well, stop fucking him in the mouth when I say so. We beat him 6 more years. 6 more. We waited. Bankruptcy in America, after 7 years, it cleans the books. We waited. We fucking waited, like in Vietnam, and jumped out to ambush him. As soon as he could get credit again, we were on him to make sure. So he had to file bankruptcy again in the 8th year. I wasn't going to wait another 7 years, but I should have waited another 7 years. We caused his wife to have 2 miscarriages. So they said in court. We served her at 3 and 5 in the morning. And that's exactly how these guys are. So how are you going to combat that? How are you going to combat that, sweetie? And you can't call little girl sweetie anymore. She looks like a little doll to me, though. Little teeny doll, you know. Stand up straight. Are you sitting up straight? Okay. You can't talk like this to people anymore. But I love beating up on Asians, particularly. Blacks are only third or fourth down the list. So that, because I've got 3 million pores in my body. I've been fucked in every pore twice at least, mostly by Asians. And if you don't know that, it's because you haven't been out in the real world. When we had those 6 guys at the last seminar, they all said, oh God, we're terrible to people. But the worst, and I already told you who they said was the worst on the list. Okay, YouTube, good night.